Welcome to Jazz Time. Jazz Time is an online store that buys, sells, and trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch, click the link in the description below to buy it at the lowest price anywhere online. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Self-Winding Chronograph. Reference 26420SO.OO.A002CA.01. I'm going to talk to you about the bezel, the movement, the dial, the case, the bracelet, and then I'm going to try it on, give you my thoughts, and also tell you a little bit about the history and how this watch fits to the rest of the collection. So let's get started. This watch is the Royal Oak Offshore. The Offshore was created in 1993 as a spin-off of the Royal Oak. It's an original Gerald Genta design in 1972, which had its 50th year anniversary. The Offshore came in 1993, quite a bit of time after the first Royal Oak. And it was at that time a revolutionary design. Not it looked similar to the Royal Oak, but it just became like Royal Oak on steroids, like a total sports version of the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak was already a sports watch, and then when the Offshore came out, which was kind of a spin-off of the Royal Oak, it just evolved and became that much more sporty. So, here you have it. This is the final evolution of the Offshore line, and I'm just going to tell you a few things that are different and why I think this is the final evolution of the Offshore. And if it's not the final, then it's definitely the best version of the Offshore that has ever been made. So let's first talk about the case. The case of this watch is 43 millimeters. 43 millimeters is pretty big, but it's not gigantic. It's large, but it's still wearable. It's at the it's about as large as you can make a watch, in my opinion, but it's still perfectly fine. Other watch companies do make bigger ones, such as Hublot, IWC Big Pilots, and even Pateks make some even 44 millimeters, albeit those ones are super expensive, but they are still made. But Patek does commonly make 42, which is not that much different. It's only 1 millimeter. Okay, now the 43 millimeters is across the distance across the bezel, the diameter from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. But this watch actually looks a bit bigger from lug to lug, which is where it connects the bracelet from the 12 o'clock to the 6 o'clock part. That distance from where the black part of the rubber connects at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock part of the case, that distance is actually 50 millimeters. So that is actually about as big of a watch that it can be. You really should not cross the 50 millimeters mark. Now, Richard Mille, one of the largest watches, even their largest watch, the split-second 6501, that one is only 50 millimeters going top to bottom, vertically 12 to 6. So this one, also being 50 millimeters, it's about as large as it can possibly get. Now, that distance is okay. What makes this watch kind of look bigger is that you see between approximately 2 and 10 where the lugs go, that is actually where the case is very thick. And also again, at the very bottom, approximately 4 and 8, you can see the case is very thick right here. So that this huge chunk of metal gives it a large look. So even though it's 43, it actually looks a little bit bigger. Okay, so what else should I bring to your attention? The beveled edges of the case have been widened from the previous generation, and it looks quite beautiful. In fact, I think it looks perfect. The way they've done it this time is exactly how it should be done. And you can see those lines extended into the bracelet, or the strap, the rubber strap here. That high polish goes down that line and extends into the bracelet, which I think really completes the look of this watch. Now, the top part is brushed stainless steel. Did I mention that this case itself is made of stainless steel? Now, AP is making several variations. These are the models that came out in 2021. They're making the steel version that you see here. They're making titanium versions, and they're also making a rose gold version, and now they're even making a black ceramic. Now, they haven't started doing too many funky colors yet, but I suspect that they probably will. They've done one yellow one, a black ceramic with yellow accents. It's a 500 pieces, so I suspect they'll probably do some more like that. Okay, now let me turn the watch onto its side so you can see the profile. Now, the profile is actually surprisingly kind of thin for what it is. It's 14.4 millimeters, and you might think, well, that's not that thin. Well, it's actually not that thick either. Because, for example, Paddock, the 5905, is 42 millimeters, and it's also around 14.5 millimeters thick. So it's not too much. It's about the same. This is actually 14.4, so it's not that thick. And when you can see it on its side profile, it doesn't look like it sticks up past your wrist too much. Now, strangely enough, AP also makes a 42 millimeter watch, which is 15.5 millimeters thick. I don't know why the smaller watch has a thicker profile. Kind of strange to me. If anyone can answer that, I'd like to know because I believe they used the same movement. So why would a smaller watch have a thicker profile? It doesn't make sense to me, but at any rate, to me, this one is the better watch, being not that thick at 14.4 millimeters. Now let's turn it on its other side where the crown is facing you. Now, I think AP has done a great job reconfiguring and redesigning these pushers that has these beautiful pushers here. And those pushers are in black ceramic, and it's housed in those sandblasted stainless steel's push piece guards. So these guards that house the pushers, those are also made of stainless steel, of course, because the watch is made of stainless steel, but these are the sandblasted to give it that rough look, to give it a bit of texture. They could have easily just done a brushed stainless steel, but that would be boring. So AP being AP had to go and sandblast those to give it a different look, to just give it some layers of complexity. And as I told you, the pushers are now in black ceramic. And why would you want to make it in black ceramic? Well, it adds a nice accent to it. It leaves a continuous look between the bezel, the pusher, and the crown to have it all in one flowing material. Not to mention, ceramic is also very robust. It doesn't scratch so well. Well, it doesn't scratch easily, at least. So that's quite a big benefit to having that. And plus, it also looks very cool, as I stated. Okay, so the crown is also in black ceramic. All right, and I think looking at the side profile on the crown side with all of these angles and everything, it just looks really cool. It reminds me kind of like a Lamborghini. Okay, so now that's the case, let's talk about the bezel. Now, the bezel is its most recognizable feature on this AP. The bezel is an octagon bezel, which comes from its roots, which is of the royal oak, which was created in 1972. It has that same octagonal bezel that we have all come to know AP for, and but the difference between the Offshore and the royal oak is that the Offshore's, which is the more sportier version, uses a ceramic bezel, whereas royal oaks, they obviously did not use ceramic bezels. Now, you use ceramic bezels in sporting type activities, which is where you might scratch the watch easily, which is why you see it here on the Offshore, okay? So, of course, it has these hexagonal screws, which are not actually screws. They're just there to hold the screws. The screws are on the back side. The actual screws are on the back side. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the did I mention? Yes, I did mention it's 43. The older versions of the watch, by the way, were 44 millimeters, which were just, you might think 1 millimeter is not a big deal, but it is a big deal because when it was 44, they didn't configure the watch and design it properly, at least in my opinion, so that it looked, even though it was 44, it looked even bigger than 44. And it just looked very clumsy. Not a good big, just clumsy big. It didn't look good at all. But now this one, now that they've slimmed it down, cut out all that excess fat, now it looks like a streamlined, beautiful Offshore. Okay, let's talk now about the dial. The dial is using its mega tapisserie dial, which is different from the dial that the Royal Oaks used. It's where it came from. The Royal Oak uses a tapisserie dial, but it's not mega. And so you can see it's a sort of waffle dial. It's very signature AP, and on the Offshore, it's a big fat waffle. hence the name Mega Tapisserie. And on the Royal Oak, it's a much smaller one, which kind of makes sense. This is the sports version of the Offshore. Okay, now the dial, they have several different kinds of dials. But in each material, they only make a certain configuration. Like in rose gold, they have black. Stainless steel, they have black as well. They actually have, on stainless steel, another one which is called taupe brown. And then they have a titanium, which is in blue. And then they have a few diamond versions, and then they also have the titanium version, which is also gray. And then they have a ceramic one, and they have a bunch of other diamond ones. And by the way, did I mention that if you want to buy this watch, and if you want other watches or similar watches to Offshores, then you click on the link in the description below and buy it at jazztime.com below price leader. Okay, so let's get back to talking about this dial. What else I can tell you that AP also reconfigured the hands. The hands, you might think, well, what's the big deal? Well, they actually made them fatter, which I think is interesting. The watch had gotten slimmer, yet the hands have gotten fatter, which is not a bad thing because it makes the watch more legible. And I think it adds to the overall look. And if you look at the counters, if you'll notice, since AP has gotten used to all of the in-house chronograph movement, before they used a modular movement, which I'll get to in a sec, but now they've gotten to an in-house movement with an integrated chronograph. Since they were able to put subdials at this very optimum place of 3, 6, and 9, and right in the center, so the watch looks completely balanced, it's very symmetrical. They were able to put these subdials at this very optimum place here of 3, 6, and 9, and right in the center, so that it looks very completely balanced and also very symmetrical. You can cut a line from 12 to 6 and fold this watch in half. Or you could cut it at 3 to 6, or you can cut it pretty much in any direction, and it will be symmetrical. And what else you can see is that the date, where the date wheel is, you can see it's not pushed too close to the center. For example, if you had seen other Offshores, you would have noticed that the date wheel has been pushed too close to the center. And that's because the movement was not designed specifically for that watch. Whereas in this watch, it is. That's what makes the dial configuration layout so good. And I might also add that AP has added some red accent to these. The hour markers, the minute marker, and the seconds, and that actually, I think at least, lends to a very hip look. It's very subtle, but it definitely gives it that sporty look. And I mean, it also makes it easier to read, because these indexes are also larger than they were before. They were much skinnier and much harder to read. They've also thickened them to make it easier. All right, now let's move on to the bracelet. Now, the bracelet has also been changed, and you might wonder, how can you change the bracelet? Well, they've left this line here, which makes the case look like it's extending onto the bracelet. Well, they've left this line here, which makes the case look like it's extending onto the bracelet. That part hasn't changed from the outside, but what they have done is here. I think it's pretty genius. They've done two things. One, they've made it so you can simply press, okay, let me turn the watch over so you can actually see the backside, all right? And you can simply press these two buttons here. If you press them simultaneously and you pull out the strap can be changed just like this. You pull, you press these two buttons and pull, and you can see they come straight out, and you can simply remove the buckle, and you don't need any hand tools. Before, you needed to have a double-sided screw, and it was just a big pain. You probably had to go to a watchmaker, and you would probably scratch the watch, and it was just not very easy. Now you can simply use the interchangeable system that they have, and you could just change the strap. It's a genius idea, and it won't come undone because you have to press both of these buttons at the same time. What else can I tell you? They've also reconfigured the buckle. Now, you might wonder, why and how would you reconfigure the buckle? Well, first of all, the older buckle was fatter. Even though it doesn't... I don't have it here for you to see. It was fatter, and it actually looked ridiculously fat. Now, this one has a more taper in on the bracelet than the older versions. And what else? Interestingly, they got rid of the old buckles. They were very sharp. The edges were too angular, and you could hurt yourself with those buckles. Now they've polished down the edges of it to make it more wearable, because I've actually worn it before and scratched myself. It was not pleasant. So the buckle is really, in my opinion, they've done it about as good as you can get. In fact, I think it's fantastic the way they've done it. Okay, now let's get back to the movement. The movement here is a brand new movement. They have, as I've told you at the beginning or the middle of this video, the movement used to be an add-on chronograph. But now, with this caliber 4401, which was a flyback chronograph and also has a date, is used in not only the code 1159, but also in the Offshores. And it is perfect size for this watch. It has a diameter of 32 millimeters. That's large for a movement. Now it fills the whole case. Before, it didn't really fit the whole case. It looked like a tiny movement in a big watch, which wasn't that great. The frequency is the standard 28,800 and it has 40 joules. It has a power reserve of 70 hours, 381 parts, and 6.8 millimeters of thickness. So basically, it's a very cool movement. Now, if you just look at the movement yourself, you could probably tell that. It does look good. And if you compare it to other movements, it definitely knows how to hold its own. Okay, now on to what my thoughts are. So my thoughts, I think, I told you at the beginning, I think this is the final evolution of the Offshore. Now, Offshores all kind of look the same if you look at them from afar, but you see the evolution. AP is slowly but surely adjusting the Offshore that it can even look better and be more functional, more ergonomic on the wrist, and just making it the final evolution of the perfect sports watch. In my opinion, at this pricing range, which this watch being around $40,000 or so, I think it is the best sports watch that you can buy. AP is probably one of my favorite brands, and I think they've done the best when it comes to sports watches. There's really no one that can beat them. I don't think Patek comes close when it comes to sports watches. Yeah, Patek makes a nice Aquanaut and a nice Nautilus, but if you're talking sports watches, you know you're putting them head to head. I think AP beats them out, no problem, easily. It's just that Pateks are harder to get. That's why people like them, or there's a higher premium on them, but that doesn't make them a better watch. And it definitely does not make them a better sports watch. So I think this AP is just a great watch. This is the final evolution of it. Everything about it is perfect, from the case to the size, the slimness of the bracelet, the taper of the bracelet, the movement, everything. The way it's set up, it just looks, it's like your perfect sports watch. I can't imagine them doing anything different for a long time because I don't know how they could improve it. I think they pretty much nailed it. So if you like this watch and you want to buy it, simply click on the link in the description below, which is why we make these videos. So please, if you're going to buy it from jazztime.com. Don't just watch this video and then go buy it somewhere else. Buy it from jazztime.com. You'll save yourself some money and, well, you'll save yourself some money. Okay, thanks.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to model as seen in video, click on it and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.